Boxing King Media in association with Boxro. Delighted to be joined by a boxing legend in CHRISTY Martin today. As I was saying to you earlier, CHRISTY, I've been watching your knockouts for years and I never thought I'd actually get the opportunity to meet you, and we've bumped into each other by chance today. So first of all, how are you?
I'm great. It's an honor to be here with you. I'm excited to be here in New York City to watch this historic event we're about to see with Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor.
You've obviously flown in town for this particular fight, so I'll start off with that. How do you think it's going to go?
I think it's going to be a great fight. I think it's one of those styles make fights. So it's going to be who can impose whose will. Will Serrano be able to make it a dogfight? And that is obviously in her behalf. Or is Katie Taylor going to be able to stay on the outside and box and move and make it more of a boxing match? So it's really going to be who's able to impose their will tonight.
Obviously, size. A lot of people are talking about the size, saying Katie's naturally the bigger woman in this, but Serrano's had a lot more fights, almost double the fights. Which one of them facts will play more in hand, do you think?
Well, I think it's really hard to say because Katie Taylor has so much amateur experience, and she does have that experience of boxing and staying on the outside and just using her skill and her speed. Serrano is much like my style. Let's go in, let's make it a fight, let's make it a war. And so that's what I think we're just going to see. Will the bigger, maybe more experienced Katie Taylor be able to stay on the outside and make it a boxing match, or will Serrano be able to make it a dogfight? And I think if it's a dogfight, Amanda Serrano hands down.
Interesting that. Obviously, I'm sure you saw the weigh-in yesterday. How amazing was that with the crowd, etc.?
You know what? Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to see the weigh-in, and I haven't been able to even see any videos yet because we were in a fight in Philly, and then we drove down this morning. So, I'll check it out here shortly. And I'm excited to sell out the Garden, and just to be able to fight in Madison Square Garden is one thing, but to headline a card and in front of a great audience is totally unbelievable that two women are about to do this.
It's been dubbed as the biggest female fight of all time, but some people are saying Savannah Marshall as CLARESSA Shields is the biggest female fight of all time. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I don't know. I really think because both Serrano and Taylor have a great following, at least here in the United States, it's probably the biggest fight of all times right now because CLARESSA Shields, for whatever reason, hasn't really received the love and support from the fans here in the United States that Serrano has.
Why do you think that is?
Well, of course, Jake Paul doesn't hurt anything, and he has huge social media following and a huge number of fans. So those guys are all coming over to support Serrano. So that's of course probably why. But it doesn't matter why people tune in, but once they tune in, that you entertain them, and that's what Serrano's been able to do.
That's a very good point. I'm going to ask you about the fight with Savannah and CLARESSA. I know you said you've never been to the UK, so I hope somebody can fly you across because they've got to have a female boxing legend across for that fight. How do you think that fight's going to play out?
I think it's a great fight, but I think I think Savannah Marshall is stronger. She has more skills, and she's going to be able to back CLARESSA Shields up, and that's all you have to do to beat CLARESSA Shields is back her up. So my vote is Marshall, probably by late round knockout.
Interesting. I'm not going to let you go without speaking about yourself. I was speaking to you earlier, watching some of your knockouts and fights from back in the day. In the best way, it looks like a male fighting, your skill, your technique, you were like way ahead of your years. Would you agree with that?
I just wanted to be a fighter, and I wanted to fit into the sport of boxing. I loved my job, and I trained with guys all the time, so that's the way that I was brought up. I think I was gifted. I was gifted in the fact that I was in the right place at the right time. I was gifted that Don King came into my career, Mike Tyson came to my career, and both of them put me out there in front of the people. It was up to me to perform, and that particular night when I fought Jeter Gogarty and really put the shot in the arm for women's boxing, we did it.
You sure did. They were speaking about Katie Taylor yesterday, saying, when she started off, she had to pretend she was a boy. She used to cover her hair up and she called herself Kay. Do you have any stories like that from, when you started off?
It was a ton of stuff. People didn't want to let females in their gym. I showed up a fight one time, and the doctor was like, "No, I'm only doing physicals for fighters, no ring car girls." I'm like, "Well, first of all, I'm not a ring car girl. I don't even look like a ring car girl, so I am a fighter." Back and forth with that, and just the fact of getting promoters to put me on the show and give me the opportunity to perform and really show people that I could fight. It was a tough journey.
You sure did. With regards to Eddie Hearn, I'm sure you're aware who Eddie Hearn is. He's been a big catalyst in women's boxing over the last couple of years. What kind of work, what do you think of Eddie Hearn and the work he's done for women's boxing?
I don't know Eddie Hearn personally. Maybe I'll get the chance to meet him here in the next couple of days. But I think what he's doing with women's boxing and Katie Taylor specifically is great for her and for women's boxing. That he's opening up more and more fans. He's given exposure to female fighting that no other promoter since Don King has done.
Did you ever believe, looking back now, you fought on TV yourself, but then there was a big gap, a good 10, 15-year gap. We didn't really see women's boxing move anywhere. That it'd get to this point where two, pound-for-pound greats are going to fight at Madison Square Garden in front of 17,000 people.
I think it's awesome, and I'm really surprised, and you're absolutely right. My career ended. We had Layla Ali for just a little bit, and then it's been women's boxing's definitely been in a slump. So they have Serrano and Taylor have women's boxing in their hands tonight. They have to perform. They have to excite the crowd, leave everybody standing on their feet, and really re-energize and get people talking about women's boxing again.
I'm guessing you follow women's boxing worldwide. Is there any particular names, whether they're from the UK or US, that you can tell the fans about that you're excited about watching, or the ones that you like watching?
I think that Serrano is one of the women that's really going to take women's boxing to the forefront. Katie Taylor's she's also a very good boxer. So, again, styles make fights with the matchup tonight. Jessica McCaskill, who's also here in the hotel, she's a good fighter. We have lots of potential, really, to keep that fire lit for women's boxing.
And what is it you do yourself nowadays? Do you want to tell the fans, how do you keep yourself busy? You're still involved in boxing, obviously.
I am. We have CHRISTY Martin Promotions, so we're promoting fights on the East Coast here in the U.S. I have a book that's coming out. Will be released in June. The International Boxing Hall of Fame will finally get to do the induction ceremony after 2 years. That also happens in June. We have the Netflix documentary that's out there. So just trying to stay active, stay in people's eyes so that they know about domestic violence, and that's the most important thing to me right now, is to really create the awareness for domestic violence and to make people think, is my mom okay? Is my sister okay? My neighbor, my friends? Because it's everywhere. Domestic violence touches all races, socioeconomic classes, everybody, everywhere. We just have to be aware of others' surroundings.
Sure, it's a worldwide issue, so it's something that you can't escape. I've been intrigued by your book because I'm guessing you've got some amazing stories. If Katie Taylor can share them stories from 10 years ago, I'd dread to imagine what you're going to share from, 30 years ago.
The book is really good. Ron Borges, who is a great friend, a great boxing writer, wrote the book, and I'm excited about the release. It's kind of like the underdog story, people that I'm from a small town in southern West Virginia, a small place here in the United States, and I made it. I made it to the top of the world with boxing, and I want people to take something away from that. No matter what I want to be, if Christy Martin can do it, so can I.
And you should be proud of what you've achieved because fans know your name. Some people may not recognise you or whatever because obviously time's moved on, but fans know your name and you obviously left your blueprint on the sport because your knockouts, even these days, I've come across them on social media, people are still posting your knockouts and they go viral.
Yeah. I think it's awesome. I loved my job and I miss it. I wake up most mornings thinking I have one more fight left in me, but by the time I have the first cup of coffee, I'm like, maybe tomorrow. But I loved my job, and again, if I was 20 years younger, I would still be doing it for sure.
A quick word on Tyson Fury. I know you said you're a big fan of Tyson. What do you think of Tyson?
Love him. I mean, I love him. I think he's a great fighter. I love his charisma. I think he's just an all-around cool dude. And what I really think, when you see him interact with the fans and the people of his community, of any community, it's special. What he brings to the table is special.
Sure does. Christy, is there anything else you'd like to add for the fans before I let you go?
Just keep an eye out for Christy Martin, and moving forward, we have a major motion picture about to start filming. So we're going to stay out there and be in the people's eye, whether it be in the promotion with the boxing or just talking about domestic violence and bringing the awareness to people's forefront.
Great stuff. I've got one last question for you. If you could fight any female from any era, and I want to bring the females that are on top of the game right now as well, who would you love to share the ring with?
Yeah, I would, just because I shouldn't even give this person publicity, but I would like to bust Claressa Shields' ass because she just is so arrogant, and she doesn't give people credit. And, you know, without the people from the 90s, like myself, my wife Lisa Hallowine, you know, Lucia Riker, all these people, Layla Ali, that we broke down so many doors for these women that are fighting today in the 90s. And Shields doesn't give anybody any credit. She actually thinks it's all about her, and it isn't. It's not all about me. It's not about us in the 90s, but it took us to get the women here. So just appreciate the ones that come before you.
On that note, who is the greatest woman of all time in your opinion?
I don't know. I don't have an opinion on that. But I think that Don King and I and Mike Tyson, we broke down a lot of doors, and we made it more acceptable and more noticeable for women to go out there and box today.
Christy, thank you so much for your time, and we'll hope to see you in the UK sometime soon.
Absolutely, I'd love to.